Chris Salvador here, and I thought I'd get into some specifics of my thoughts on the whole Writers Guild of America strike. Just get through some quick talking points because a couple years ago I did kind of the same thing on Disney and Pixar and their relationship, and I feel like I can offer some advice here to all the struggling writers and the not so struggling, and just some thoughts on how to come up with a quick solution. First of all, I'd just like to say that while I commend anybody who, wants to fight for their rights and fight, create unions, and, it's a very scary thing to essentially stand up for something knowing that whether you're right or wrong, just to stand up for something and know that you're going to get fired or that you're going to lose money or that your family, it's very scary. So I want to commend the writers out there in Hollywood. Now I want to say shame on you guys. Shame on you. And shame on, most of the artists, because I've seen, it is so, I feel so saddened that an entity as big as the WGA was able to sit down and say, on November 5th, we're all going to just stop writing, we're going to put our pens down, and we're going to just march, and we're going to, rally, and we're going to, and the idea that that happened, that there was no kind of we might kind of do it, or that happened, and that, a lot of these, the people from Ugly Betty, people from The Office, that a lot of these kind of celebrities were able to just get together quickly and start marching, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that, they weren't working, so they weren't doing anything anyway. But I just feel such shame because there's some real issues out there besides your paycheck in America, like Darfur, and like the war in Iraq, and you could say global warming, but there's some, not that I believe in that, but there's some real issues out there, and one of the biggest is obviously the impeachment of George W. Bush. I don't want to get into a political rant here, but the idea that all those people could have just said, you know what, April 29th, we're going to get together and we're going to rally until people, until we can find some evidence to impeach Bush. The fact that he committed high treason and should be under arrest right now for outing Valerie Plame, and the fact that that was just kind of the guy, I don't want to make this an anti-Bush rant, but the idea that a president like that is still in power and we're all kind of who cares, let's just wait it out. Who cares if he's passing some kind of law now and coming up with some kind of scheme to stay in office with some kind of nuclear attack, or getting Arnold Schwarzenegger in office with the whole California fires and all that stuff. Who cares that, they might be planning something, or a war with Iran? Who cares? Let's just wait to see if, Hillary Clinton or Rudy Giuliani take his place. The idea that if you could come together for this, a WGA, for your paycheck, to fight for your little residuals, but the fact that you can't come together as Americans and just stand up and speak out over something like Bush, or just anything that's beyond you, is just sad to me, and it's shameful, because I just know that, Rosie O'Donnell, say what you want about her, but she was fired for simply just talking about the 9/11 truth movement, and the idea that she kept on talking about it on a public show that was corporately sponsored, the idea that it didn't matter if she was right or wrong, you could say, but the fact that the freedom of speech, that she was like, you know what, I read this on the internet, I'm going to keep bringing it up. I don't care, because I have freedom of speech, and I'm a person, and if I want to say something, I'm going to say it. I don't care if it's not the right whatever. It's the point is, I have the power to say whatever I want, and if you don't like it, well, too bad, deal with it. But the point is that I have the power to do that. And the fact that she would talk about the 9/11 truth, and that 9/11 was an inside job, and things that were already on the internet freely being discussed, the fact that she talked about them and was fired because of those comments, because she's no longer on The View, and you could say it's for other stuff, but it was mainly because they realized, you know what, we need to shut her up, she keeps talking about this 9/11 stuff. That's just, it shows me that, nobody kind of backs her up on there. Nobody kind of backs, and the only thing people are backing up here with this WGA strike is your paycheck. Because the only reason I feel that, you see all these Julia Dreyfus, Tina Fey, all these really big, writers and big, people involved in Hollywood, the only reason they're doing this is because, it's a corporate, it's kind of like they're thinking in terms of money, where it's you know what, if we just strike for a certain amount of months, and we have a beginning and we have an end. Like if we just, it's kind of like an investment where it's like, you know what, we're taking a risk, but if we go past a certain amount of months, then we're screwed. Then we had a bad thing. But if we can just last a couple of months, not working, kind of, living, just here and there, kind of, scrimping and saving and planning, we can just last a couple of months. That somehow the contracts will be back, and guess what's going to happen? 2-3 years from now, that DVD is going to come out and you're going to get all this money from the residuals. So basically, it's not really a choice. It's more like somebody come up to you and said, look, if you don't work for a week, then your paycheck's going to go up. But even if your paycheck doesn't go up, you didn't work a week, so you lost a couple of money. So like, I feel like that's ultimately the biggest shame that I have, is that they showed that they can do this, that if they wanted to pick any subject, whether it's the impeachment of Bush or anything, that they can shut down studios and productions and do this, and it seems like the only worthy cause that they were able to do this for is for their paycheck, for their money, for the greed of just, we're going to get more money on residuals. But if you had gone to them and told them 9/11 truth or this or they would have been like, nah, I'm not going to lose my job over that, and I have other priorities, and that's bullshit, and then nobody would have done anything, or they would have, and it's just so shame on that, and I'm just saddened about that fact that had to happen. So another, I guess, so now what I want to get into is the fact that another thing I don't like about this Writers Guilds is that it just seems like, one of the best lessons that I ever learned was that someone asked, one of my teachers said, what's the most important part of filmmaking? And everybody would answer, oh, it's director, it's this, it's that. And he said, you're all wrong. Every part is the most important part of filmmaking. You can't make a film if none of those parts work. And for a writer to kind of come out and be like, well, we deserve back-end pay because it's our creation, is just sad to me, because you can go down the list of everybody from the idea, the conception of the idea of the movie, to the actual DVD release, to a little box disc. Everybody did their part to make that happen. So the idea that you're creating this DOP system, which is directors, actors, writers, producers, and you're saying that those are the four above the line, like they're the people that deserve, when the movie makes $300 million, they deserve 2% or 3% or 4% of the gross, but the set designer, he doesn't deserve anything except to get paid for building the set, and that's it. They're basically trying to make the argument that says, look, we want to sign an agreement that basically says, if the movie makes money, we make money. It's just a small fraction of pennies. It's just a small. It's not as much as, it's not like $25 million or something like that, but it is a percentage, which is better than having nothing. And, a lot of directors have that, a lot of actors have that, producers have that, and now writers are trying to say, well, we want that too. Because they're trying to basically, I heard Joss Whedon talk about it, and he said that basically there's a misconception with writers, and everybody thinks that they're millionaires, and that's true. Not every writer is getting paid, $4 million, $5 million a screenplay. And, you're lucky if you can get, something written for $100,000 or more. Basically, it's basically $100,000 to maybe $3 to $6 million is the best curve that a writer can get, and that's probably something Hilary Duff probably makes for the Hilary Duff movie or something. So it's you're modestly paid, but at the same time, with the price of everything going up, and living in LA is probably not as cheap as most people think, the property and everything going up, I can understand how the people who aren't getting paid the $100,000 and above, they really need those residuals. It's important to them that if they wrote that episode of Seinfeld or something, that when that episode is re-aired on Warner Brothers or whatever network, they get that check, and they get that, it just helps. It's like freebies in the mail. It's kind of like when McDonald's has those scratch and play contest, the contests that come out, and you scratch and you win the free soda. To them, it's like, you can't live off that. You don't always know when you're going to get the scratch and get the free soda or the free meal. And it's the same with residuals. You never know when residuals are going to come in the mail. Residuals are just checks. And basically, I don't really know how I feel about residuals. I know that, residuals weren't always something that were a part of